Hi, welcome to the Healing Journal. My name is Fiormelissa, and as promised, I didn't forget, I'm still talking about personality types. And the next category that I'll be talking about is diplomats. And under diplomat, the second category are mediators. And so, what about mediators? But before we get to that, what is the point of taking a personality assessment? Well, the first thing that I can think of is self awareness. And secondly, to understand your strengths and your weaknesses, and hopefully with your counselor, improve on those weaknesses and sustain those strengths. So let's get to it. What makes up a mediator? So, mediators are quiet people. They're creative, imaginative, and they lose themselves in daydreams. They love to create all sorts of stories in their minds, and they're known for their sensitivity and they're emotionally impacted by music, art, nature, and the people around them. They're idealistic beings, and so they hold truth to their belief system. And they long for deep, soulful relationships. They also feel a need to help others. So they're always looking for ways to give back or, like I said, help others essentially. Mediators make up actually a small number of the population, so sometimes they may feel disconnected with others. That's something to look out for. They are compassionate and willing to hear other people's stories, and they feel honored when someone confides in them and tells them their deep feelings. Another thing to look out for is that, and what makes mediators quite special people, is their sense of empathy. They are the type of people that can place themselves in someone else's shoes, and empathy is one of their greatest qualities. Now, one thing about being empathetic, it's kind of a blessing and a curse because mediators tend to absorb negative behaviors at times, negative moods and feelings of others because they're so intuitive and in tune with other people's emotions. It is something to be cautioned about because that can definitely affect a mediator. Now, another thing in terms of along the lines about being empathetic is that mediators should create boundaries. When someone is uh, impacting mediators in a negative way, you kind of have to distance yourself because, that can lead to other issues, depression, and even burnout or a feeling of overwhelmingness. Now, mediators are known in the world as poets, artists, writers, and even actors. And they love to dream about possibilities. The thing about mediators is that they dream big, but it's the taking action that gives them a little bit of hard time. So it is important to consider not only the grand plan, but how will I execute my grand plan? And not just staying in the planning stage or the idea stage, is what is the third step in order for me to accomplish my goals? So that's something to look out for mediators. Now, what are the adjectives that signify mediators, right? As we mentioned, they're empathetic, they're generous, they're open minded, they're creative, they're passionate, and also idealistic. They have a sense of a belief system, and they love to share that. They don't mind sharing that. What are some of the things that mediators should be wary about? As discussed, um, mediators always think about the grand plan. They're always daydreaming. And sometimes it may be unrealistic. So that's something to be mindful of. Mediators are also self isolating because they're at times quiet and sometimes even unfocused. They're thinking about the grand plan, but there's a lot of plans in their minds. And so understanding and prioritizing plans, that's something that should be important for mediators. Also, mediators tend to be self critical. and also emotionally vulnerable. So that's something to be cautioned about. What I mean emotionally vulnerable is that sense of, back to the empathy section, is that when someone is sharing their deepest secrets and it's kind of like a very sad story, mediators are impacted by that. So mediators are emotionally vulnerable. So that is something to protect your heart, to protect your mind, and be cautious about how much of that information you take in, how much, because we are energetic beings. So how much of that are you soaking in and allowing it to consume you, right? And in terms of self-critical, I mean, it's okay to analyze your behavior and analyze your patterns, but if you are overly self-critical, then maybe that may be why mediators have a difficult time accomplishing their goals and being unfocused, because you're often criticizing yourself and maybe even setting yourself back, or even over analyzing the next move that you're going to make. Just make it, just do it, just set a plan and tackle it, right? In terms of love, right? Mediators are true romantics, they're dreamers. They love to see the beauty of love, right? They're the type of, they will not settle for less. Like, they want to find their true person, the love of their life, and they're in a mission to do that. And mediators also, they just don't want to date. They want to find their soulmate. So it may take them a little time. And in terms of um, what we discussed earlier about being unrealistic, is the idea that they may be setting too high of expectations. I'm not saying settle for less, but I am saying that mediators should compromise. In order to find that person that's right for you, you need to outweigh the pros and cons, but don't live in a fantasy world where it's picture perfect, right? And so it is important to understand that true love does require work, and true love, at the end of the day, requires that give and take. Well, I hope that I summed up the mediator personality types well for you guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also, I've left some links below. So if you'd like to help my channel and maybe even get some of healing journals, materials, and things that you'd like to have for yourself, feel free to click on the link below. Take care and see you soon.